Yo, so Joe Soy. Yo, so here we go. Like I said, so we here, man. We here. First episode. I probably ended up doing another episode explaining this. I did a video on Instagram explaining what this would be, but I guess my fortitude, my foresight, and just my intuition was on topic. Basically, Jameis Winston has become a national treasure, and I'm excited to talk about it. I'm excited to be here um, to bring on some information to you all, my opinion. Also, just do some findings and some research, see what the people are talking about, and most importantly, like I stated, give my opinion, my side. This is about how I perceive quarterbacks and what I think the adversity that they went through, what they've overcome. Also, just the identity that they hold as leaders of mountains. Man, playing quarterback your entire life, you tend to take on that leadership role no matter what. You're not the one standing behind others in line. You peek to the front. You lead from the front. So that's why I named it here, Quarterback Trials. And today we starting off with Jameis Winston, man. Jameis Winston has been in the media a lot. I would say over the past week because he played in one of all-time uh, most controversial weather games that they've been in the last 10, 15 years, uh, playing the Pittsburgh Steelers versus Russell Wilson and the Cleveland Browns with Jameis Winston. And ironically, I didn't look at the NFL schedule, but Russell Wilson probably will be my second quarterback to go with. So maybe I'm behind schedule a week, but I do believe our attention span is still going to, carry us over week by week with each quarterback. So, like I stated, we're going to start with Jameis Winston. So let's start. So Jameis Winston, he's a Southern superhero. In my eyes, he's a superhero. From the heart of Alabama, where the sun blazes and football reigns supreme, a young boy named Jameis Winston discovered his superpowers. Down in Bessemer, Alabama, a town steeped in history, became the backdrop for Winston's ascent. This wasn't just a rise to stardom. It was a tale of resilience, dual sport dominance, and defying the odds, a narrative that links him with the pantheon of great Southern athletes and multi-sport legends. A lot of people forget Jameis played two sports at a very high level. The South has been a cradle for legendary athletes, from Bo Jackson, a two-sport marvel from Alabama, to Herschel Walker, the Georgia native who dazzled with Heisman-winning feats. The region breeds greatness. Jameis Winston inherited this rich legacy, was born with love for competition, and Winston became the embodiment of Southern athleticism, a mix of raw talent, determination, and a knack for rewriting the script. Like I stated, Jameis was from Bessemer. He went to Hueytown High School. His earliest feats hinted at his superhero abilities. Like he dominated under Friday Night Lights, throwing laser precise passes and leaving defenders gasping with escapability. But it wasn't just football. Like Bo Jackson before him, Winston excelled on the baseball diamond, using his keen instincts and rocket arm to earn accolades in both sports. Like I said, dual sport athlete. He's on the scene now as a quarterback, but he could lace up and go throw and go close some games for the Yankees. So transitioning to Florida State University, Winston joined an elite club of collegiate athletes who excelled in multiple sports, like Deion Sanders and Charlie Ward. Two Florida State legends. Winston's balanced the gridiron and the baseball field. On the football field, he became unstoppable, leading the Seminoles to a national championship in 2013 over my Auburn Tigers. It was bittersweet. He also won the Heisman that year and threw for almost 4,100 yards and 40 touchdowns. And these weren't just numbers. These were testaments to his superhuman ability to analyze, react, and dominate. Also on the football field, Winston off the football field, Winston's prowess on the baseball mound was equally striking. As a pitcher and outfielder, he showcased versatility and endurance that set him apart. Managing the grueling schedules of two sports wasn't easy. I've been there, and that's why I chose him. It required discipline, focus, and mental toughness that only a superhero could muster. His journey mirrored that of Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders, athletes who transcended limitations to make their marks in multiple arenas. As we know, the Heisman is the pinnacle moment for any collegiate player, and Winston's victory placed him in the company of Southern legends like Cam Newton and Tim Tebow. All three of them, whom shared just the trophy, they were born in the South. They all played multiple sports as well. Where football is religion and quarterbacks are expected to lead with both skills and charisma. For Winston, the Heisman just wasn't enough, and it wasn't just an award. It was a validation of his superpowers. Like Newton and Tebow before him, Winston had a knack for rising to the occasion, whether it was orchestrating game-winning drives versus my Auburn Tigers in the championship, or leading his team to a national championship. The trophy became a symbol of his ability to overcome adversity and shines in the brightest of moments. And during this time, this wasn't an easy feat because he was facing trials just like any other superhero would. Like I said, Jameis is a superhero, a Southern superhero. And no superhero's journey is complete without any challenges. And Winston faced his share. The pressure of being a multi-sport athlete at a premier university was immense. Balancing academics, practice schedules, and media scrutiny required superhuman time management and mental resilience. Critics doubted whether he could sustain excellence in two sports, but Winston thrived under the weight of those expectations, and he excelled. He thrived. As you know, Winston was able to be drafted in the first round, first overall by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that presented new trials. Winston stepped into the spotlight as the face of the franchise while he displayed flashes of brilliance, throwing 4,000 yards in multiple seasons, leading the league in passing yards in 2019 with throwing almost over 5,000 yards. He also faced setbacks, including injuries and turnovers, right? Yet like any great superhero, Winston adapted and persevered, and joined the New Orleans Saints, and eventually joined the Cleveland Browns currently. Winston's story is one of overcoming adversity, much like Southern legends who came before him. Bo Jackson overcame a debilitating hip injury to become a cultural icon. Herschel Walker battled personal challenges to cement his status as one of football's greats. Winston, too, faced his share of hurdles, but used them as fuel to refine his game and grow as a leader. Now, off the field, Winston emerged as a beacon of hope. Through his Dream Forever Foundation, he has empowered underprivileged youth, emphasizing education and sports as pathways to success. I like that, James. His philanthropy echoes the heroic acts of athletes like Walter Payton and Derrick Brooks, who use their platforms to create lasting change. Now, with this lasting change, obviously, him doing the philanthropy work, we in the community, we want to see more. And I'm sure he's willing to do more if we ask. Excuse me. So in the narrative of sports, Jameis Winston stands tall as a superhero, a man who defied expectations, embraced the dual challenges of football and baseball, and he etched his name amongst the greats of the South. His journey is a reminder that greatness isn't just about records and trophies. It's about resilience, adaptability, and the impact one leaves behind. Winston's story is still unfolding as we see, whether he's orchestrating game-winning drives for the Cleveland Browns or mentoring young athletes. His legacy continues to grow. In the eyes of his fans and the communities he serves, Winston isn't just a quarterback or a baseball player. He's a superhero in cleats and spikes. He's my superhero, carrying the South's tradition of excellence into the future. Now, I'm going to speak on it now, but at the end, I'm going to bring it back up. As we reflect on Jameis' incredible journey, let this story ignite a deeper purpose to Jameis, his team, and all who are inspired by his legacy. The challenge now is to embrace a mission rooted in accountability, creativity, and truth. Build a platform that not only teaches young athletes to excel in sports, but also to create meaningful lives filled with curiosity and intention. Just imagine an initiative that combines sports with workshops in storytelling, art, and leadership. It encourages the next generation to uncover their truths, exploring who they are, where they are, and where they come from, and what they can achieve. They can share lessons of perseverance and purpose and the beauty of giving back. This isn't just a call to action. It's a call to create. Let's honor the gift and talent. Let's honor our gifts and talents by using it to craft a world where everyone has the opportunity to find their truth and build something extraordinary. And that's what I get from Jameis. So we spoke on Jameis, and his background, some of his legendary stuff. Now, I want to give some of my personal opinion on Jameis Winston. Like all of that stuff I just read, I mocked up. I got a little help from ChatGPT. I did some validating on some of the facts with his brand and his foundation. But most of that stuff I already knew. I've been following Jameis since he was a senior in high school at Hueytown. I remember, Auburn, Alabama, Florida State, and maybe Georgia in the mix there. Me myself being a Alabama hometown kid. I moved to Georgia when I was 10, but from that age, from birth all the way up to 10, I had to choose a school. Like it was either Alabama or Auburn, Bama or War Eagle, Roll Tide or War Eagle. So for me, I chose the Tigers. And to Jameis, it seems as if he grew up in a family full of Bama fans. I mean, he's down the street from Tuscaloosa, maybe 45-minute drive, an hour at the most. So I can understand how his family is, influenced that liking to Alabama. And I believe Alabama and Florida State was his last two teams. And absolutely couldn't go to Auburn. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure he wanted to go there, but living in that Bama area, being the top recruit in the nation at the time, Bama was Auburn was out of the question. I say that. So it was up to Bama and Florida State, and ultimately he chose Florida State. He went to play for old Jimbo, and I think that was a great decision. Like they stated, he won the national championship with them, and I mean, since before Jameis got there, Florida State had been making some noise, but they wasn't moving the needle, and like us 1990s babies, I grew up 1990. Well, I was born 1990, grew up in the 90s. It was all about Florida, the state of Florida college sports, whether there was University of Florida being wild and crazy and having the Fred Taylors and the Channing Crowders and the Danny Warfels. The list can go on. Chris Leaks. Then you had the Miami teams where you had the Andre Johnsons, the Willis McGahees, the Kellen Winslows Jr., the Jeremy Shockeys, all those greats from Miami, and them winning those championships. And I remember the championship with them playing Ohio State and Maurice Claret. I think that was 2000. I can't remember. 2001. Might have been later than that. I seem a lot younger. I seem a lot older than what I am when I think about these things. And then, of course, Florida State. Like, I was a Chris Winkie fan. He played dual sports, baseball before he got over to, he played Major League Baseball, minor league baseball for years up until he went on and honored his football responsibility from Florida State back when he was a high school senior. And that was my first time realizing that you could get drafted in high school to a baseball team. And, hey, if you had committed to a football team, that organization that you went to go play for, they're pretty much responsible for your education over, contract wise. So if you decide to end your contract and you still want to go back to college, Chris Winkie, he pretty much took on that responsibility. And Primetime did the same thing. Primetime walked on to Florida State as a football player, but I mean, football and baseball player and track. But he ultimately was able to get his tuition paid for through his major league contract. And you got Peter Ward as well. Peter Ward played basketball. He went on to play in the NBA. And these are my top three Florida State players up until Jameis came. But Chris Winkie, Deion Sanders, and Peter Ward, those guys, Peter Ward and Chris Winkie played quarterback, two different styles of quarterback, but ultimately, if I'm not mistaken, I think I know he wore 17. I think Chris Winkie wore 17. I had to fact check that. Hey Siri, what jersey number did Chris Winkie play in Florida State?
Chris Winkie wore the number 16 for the
16.
Florida.
All right, so 16, close enough. I wore 16 my sophomore year before 17 was available, so that's close enough. But yeah, we grew up in the state of Florida, knowing that that's where college ball, that's what it reigned supreme. That's what the national championships came through, whether it's ACC or SEC. It had to go through Miami. It had to go through Florida State. And I believe that had a lot to do with Jameis's decision. I don't know for a fact. Hopefully he hears this. His family hears it. Maybe the comments lets me know. If y'all know a little bit more, y'all let me know in the comments. But I believe that had a lot to do with it. You know, Alabama had created their dominance. There were a lot of dudes that came through Alabama. I believe A.J. McCarron is the most decorated University of Alabama quarterback and just Alabama athlete in general when it comes to winning those national championships. Then you got Mark Ingram and Derrick Henry and Eddie Lacy and Julio Jones and so many Alabama greats have came through University of Alabama at the time that Jameis was about to make a commitment decision. And I believe he thought about it and said, I could get lost or I can become, you know, a part of the great Alabama system and be a number, or, you know, be amongst the greats, be lost amongst the greats, or I can just set my own path out and bring reign supreme back to the ACC and Florida State. You know, to me, it's a tough decision, but I hope and I believe that his family, his support system allowed him to make that decision on his own. Like I stated, Bama fans, I'm sure you have some sprinkles of Auburn fans here and there, but I believe Jameis was able to make this decision on his own by heading over to Florida State so he can rewrite history on his own, get the opportunity to play dual sport, to be a dual sport athlete like many others at Florida State have done before him. And I think that's why he wanted to ultimately go to Florida State. And I'm happy for him. Like I said, they beat my Tigers in the championship game, but I was happy that, for one, he was able to cement himself as a great and having that championship, as well as having that Heisman Trophy on his mantle as well. So I'm proud of him. I'm glad that he did that. And we know all the ups and downs that was happening then during that time. You know, me playing quarterback in high school and college and playing baseball in high school and college, I understand, like we spoke on earlier, there's some discipline, some focus, and it's just not even only discipline and focus. You got to have a want to do these things. You know, football in college happens in the fall, baseball happens in the spring. Football is similar to NFL when it comes to the amount of roster spots. Like, we can have an unlimited number of roster spots at a home game, but when it's time to go away, there's only going to be amount, 53 to 60 players that's going to travel. You know, we're going to have depth, but ultimately it's capped off at like 53 to 60 players. So being a freshman, a lot of freshmen who redshirt, they're not a part of that list. But if you're one of those great freshmen, one of those good freshmen that's a part of that first string, second string, he's on some special teams, he's starting on special teams, then you're a part of that traveling group. You're part of the traveling team. The other players, they stay back and be on campus partying, kicking it or whatnot. And now I mentioned that to say, in certain cases, depending on the proximity of your away game, you're going to be traveling on a Thursday. Sometimes you might travel on a Wednesday if it's a Friday game. You might have to travel on a Tuesday if it's a Thursday game. If the game is close, within 100 miles, you might travel the night before or the morning of the game if it's a later game or whatnot. But more times than not, you're away from the classroom. You're away from the classroom 1 or 2 times a week, and that's away games and certain home games, whether it's homecoming or big rivalries or whatnot. You might be out of class 1 to 2 days throughout the week. Now let's go that a 15-week schedule, 16-week schedule. That's the entire semester. You're missing classes every week almost. A couple days every week almost. That's maintainable. You're still on campus throughout the week, and then towards the end of the week, you set your schedules up, you communicated with your professors. But let's go into the spring with baseball. I don't know if you all are aware or not, baseball is it's about 50, 60 games you're going to play. And these games are in series. So you might play 3 or 4 games of the same team. We might play 2 teams in a week. We might play 6 games in that week, but we've only played 2 teams, and we might have a homestand where we're playing straight home games. We might have an away stand. We're playing all away games, but ultimately, a lot of the baseball games are during the day, and then especially those away games. If we're traveling a day or two before for football, it's pretty much the same for baseball, but yet those games are going to be captured during, noon, school hours, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, school hours. Sometimes you might get a night game, but you're still traveling during the day in which you will miss school. So I remember my freshman year, like I said, I was traveling every week for football, and then baseball came around, and I wasn't in class at least 3 times a week. So if it's 5 days in a school week and I'm missing 3 days a week for 16 weeks, for a full semester, I'm only in class a handful of days throughout the entire semester. You have to have some real discipline and focus, some preparation, and some accountability in that. And Jameis had to deal with that. Once he, just like myself, because football was the main things, the main girl. Once we both completed all our football obligations, whether that's exit meetings after the season, spring workouts with the team to make sure that we're getting prepared with the team to build that camaraderie, and those off-season workouts. Once those are complete, 100% baseball is the time. And it's really a tough battle when you're supposed to be resting, like the rest of the team is resting during the off season, but you're playing baseball, and not only playing baseball, you're traveling during the week. You're missing classes. You're missing time with study hall, and being able to build those relationships with your peers in the classroom, as well as with your teammates outside of the field during the off season. And Jameis was able to get through that his few years there at Florida State. And if you don't know that or not, there has to be some mental want to be able to do these things, because at any moment you can quit. Any moment we can quit baseball. Like, okay, I've already played football, and I'm pretty sure that's what's going to take me to the mountaintop and to the land of milk and honey. But we're going to continue to do this baseball thing because honestly, I've done it all my life, and I'm good at it. I'm great at it. I love throwing heat. I love hitting the ball. I love throwing guys out from outfield, and that's what Jameis did. Now, along with all of that was going on, Jameis had some controversy that he had to deal with. And in my eyes, as a person in his shoes, like I said, I'm starting this conversation because of me feeling like I am him, or he is me. Like, I feel like I'm in his shoes by being a dual sport athlete and being scrutinized or being put under controversy. Like, playing quarterback, you've pretty much have a spotlight on you at all times. You're not the big lights aren't too big for you. So like controversy or anything that's negative, you have a awareness about those things. So I'm not going to go deep off into the allegations and the mistakes that they mentioned. But what I will say about these allegations that was spoke on prior to Jameis leaving out of college, declaring for the draft, and all that stuff that was trying to knock his draft stock, I will say this. There's not much that a quarterback of a high school like Hueytown and Bessemer, or a quarterback like of a school like Florida State in Tallahassee, there's not much that quarterback goes wanting or without. Yeah, if he's hungry, here, Jameis, here you go. Matter if you're not hungry, here you go. We have this. I know you like this. Here you go. And it goes all the way around, whether it's food, parking spot, women. Just give it to him. Just give it to him. You can have it. It's up to Jameis to discern. It's up to us athletes or quarterbacks. We're talking about quarterbacks. It's up to us quarterbacks to discern whether or not this is a good decision or good choice to make or not. So I'm saying that only to say what we see today from Jameis Winston and who he's always been. The fun-loving person, the God-fearing person, the faith leader that we see today has always been Jameis. I believe everybody back then, back when it was time for him to get drafted and all the draft stock started to come down off of controversial stories and allegations or whatnot, I believe he was going up against everybody and he was literally trying to realize how did he get here when all he was just doing was being himself. Some of the stories say, hey, I didn't do that. They gave that to me. And it's like the same thing. I'm thinking, why would he have to do that? I'm pretty sure they gave it to him. And that goes all the way around. Like I say, food, parking spot, women. He doesn't have to take anything. You don't have to take a parking spot from anyone because anyone would give him that parking spot. He doesn't take anything from someone because more than likely, if he wanted to take something, that's just it goes against who we see now today. It literally does. So I mentioned that we're going to go forward into his career because, as we know, he went on to get drafted to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he had a good stint. I mean, they ended up getting some good players around him. They already had some good players around him, and to be honest, he was dropped into a situation where he was expected to uphold a franchise, and he did a damn good job. I mean, to be amongst the conversations of MVP at certain times, and then also be in the same conversation as one of the worst quarterbacks ever, and then also break records like they say 30 for 30. He had 30 interceptions and 30 touchdowns and over 5,000 yards. In the year after they release him, he leaves, they win the Super Bowl with Tom Brady. Now, when he threw those 30 touchdowns and those 30 interceptions, I realized, and this is the reason why I speak on this. The reason why I started getting more vocal is because I want to consume the media that I want. I don't want to consume the media that the media puts out because, from my understanding, and I say understanding but through my experience, the media creates a narrative, and the journalistic junkies or the media moguls, they just grab low-hanging fruit. They don't do the research. They don't do the digging. They don't go backstory. They don't go read and do the deep diving like it needs to. And the ones that do, they don't get seen like that. They're not as exposed. So that is the reason why I'm speaking on the media that I want to hear, because I know for a fact Jameis is easy, low-hanging fruit to talk about a man to throw 30 interceptions, saying it's never done before, making it so big and bad to where it's like, oh, he's not a good quarterback anymore because he threw 30 interceptions. But if you know quarterback, if you know Jameis Winston, he is the most riskiest thrower of the football in a good way. He is the most throw receiver open of the ball in a good way than I've ever seen. It's like, how did he fit that ball in there? That was a wonderful throw. Sometimes, and not all those interceptions are that. But most of the times, he's risking a ball to throw a receiver open. That is a NFL attribute. Receivers aren't wide open. Jameis has been doing this since high school. He's been throwing his receivers open since high school. So obviously he was able to see back then that, hey, that defender's back is turned. And if you know a little about football or defenses or coverage, those guys aren't as intuitive as they should be. And I say intuitive. I was about to say they're not as smart as they should. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say they're not as intuitive as they should be, because all these throws that these quarterbacks throw, if the DB were to just turn around, they just catch the ball. Jameis throws a ball that another guy A defender is right here on his ball, on his guy, and the defender decides to turn around and catch the ball right there, Jameis looks bad, but honestly, what do you want from him? What do you want from him? Like I stated, we don't want 30 interceptions. No, we don't want 30 interceptions. We do want 30 touchdowns, though. We do want 5,000 receiving yards, 5,000 passing yards. We do want that. We don't want 30 interceptions. We do not. But just look at him. I've seen this since his high school highlights to his, college highlights to even the highlights still. Jameis hasn't changed. He hasn't changed. You look at the balls he throws now. He's still risking every ball to throw his receiver open. Yeah, he's taking better care of the football. But that's just like telling a Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or any of these Kyler Murray to hey, you can't do what we got you here for. We got you here to use your legs. We got you to scramble. We got you to go get those tough first downs. But we don't want you to do that. That's just like Jameis. Hey, we got you here to throw those tight balls. We got you to throw in those tight windows. We got you here for throwing the receivers open, but we don't want you to do that. Well, how am I supposed to do it? They go get LASIK. Hey, man, back in high school, I had a receiver. He was one of my favorite, best receivers I ever had. I played with him for 2 years and didn't realize the second year he needed contacts. He couldn't see worth a damn. I'm wondering, he looking up at the ball in the sky like this. He'll catch it, he pull it down, but he needed contacts the whole year. But he was absolutely fine. He went to East Carolina out of high school. That doesn't mean, he was throwing 30 interceptions without LASIK. That just meant, he found a new way for him not to have to put contacts in or wear glasses, and it also helped him out on the field. But it wasn't like, I can see better now. Now I can throw better and I can throw less interceptions. Nah, that wasn't the case. He would have been throwing interceptions his whole life if that was the case. These guys are a lot faster. The window's closing up quicker, and then these guys, like I said, the intuition is getting a lot better, and they're turning their head around. Just look at it. Every ball in the NFL that is in a window can be intercepted. Every ball in the NFL that is in the window can be intercepted if the DB, if the defender, if the coverage guy, the guy in coverage, just turns his head and looks for the ball. They say, when the receiver put their hands up, you see the DB put their hands up, try to block. You see the hands up. Yeah, you might be too late. Stingley do it the best. He been doing it. He going to have some more interceptions once he get all the way healthy. But Stingley out of LSU, I think he played for the Texans now. He's the best at doing it. He's been doing it since high school. He's been doing it since college. He's doing it in the league. He's the best that gets his hands around. So the narrative that the media took is almost, and then the ex-athletes, the former athletes, commentators, low-hanging fruit. Low-hanging fruit. They don't want to do the work and say, actually, let me look at every 30 interception, all 30 of them. All right, yeah, he threw 15 of them. Them other 15, those were good, damn good balls. The DB just made a better play. I want him to throw that ball. Them other 15, those are bad decisions, okay? But these 15, I want my quarterback to throw that ball every time, just like that. And that DB just made a play because I went and looked at him. I say some were egregious, and you can't throw that ball. It's out of desperation. You throw it up or whatever. But a lot of those balls, Jameis is still throwing it because that's what he knows. All right, and in the media, like I said, the former athletes who did it, they didn't do any work towards it. They get a piece of paper or they see a short reel and they're gonna go off there. They might go back up and look at another post or another reading before that, but that's about it. They don't do the real work, or they're not doing the real work of the real people. So with that being said, it's to day and age. Now, I spoke on a video outside of this segment, outside of these episodes, I spoke on something called identity crisis or identity problems, right? Like identity crisis, identity problems is basically saying like you don't know who you are, or you're easily influenced to become something else. You conform to whatever the trend is, whatever is is giving you attention, versus, or you even just question who you are, and you don't know who you are. You have an identity crisis. Or let's say it like this. Another example of identity crisis is um, I'm doing one thing, but my identity is still attached to another thing. So, for instance, Jameis, a few years ago, he threw 5,000 yards. He threw 30 touchdowns, and he threw 30 interceptions. The media created his identity as an interception machine, a turnover machine. You can't win with a machine. He's only going to be a backup machine. That's the type of identity that the media created for him. And let's go further back. The identity before that was off the field issues. He likes to take stuff, whether it's food, parking spot, women, whatever. He likes to take stuff. They created an identity for him through his actions or inaction back in the day in college. Created another identity of him on the field. So they mixed the man and the athlete, saying that he can't protect the ball. But what did Jameis do the entire time? What did Jameis do this entire time? What Jameis did was basically put it in our face of who he is and let us know he knows who he is. It's unwavering. His identity is not in crisis. His identity is what you see is what you get. Now that supersedes anything with 30 interceptions, 30 touchdowns, supersedes anything with taking anything from anyone or any establishment or any spot. That supersedes. His identity supersedes all of that. The identity of Jameis Winston being a God-fearing man, being a community leader, being a great husband, being a great father, being a great son, a great brother, a great cousin, uncle, nephew. That's who we know Jameis as. That's who I love Jameis for. Again, I am Jameis, and Jameis is I. Me being in Jameis's shoes every step of the way that he was going through what he was going through, giving him grace, praying for him when the media throw out different stuff when he was in college, leaving out for the NFL, when the media throw different stuff at him while he's in the NFL, after he's left his team, they're still talking about how he could have just did this. I gave him grace and I prayed for him and I kept him in my corner. I say, little bro, I love you. And I respect everything that you've done. It is not your fault for you not to be able to make mistakes and not come back for him. And that's all he's done. Jameis has been beloved in New Orleans. He went to New Orleans as a backup. And the entire city and the entire state loved Jameis Winston because his identity never wavered. Some call it corny. That's not corny. It's a guy who's been through so much at so young and realized the same thing I realized, that the media is going to run with whatever they want. And if I run over there with them, then I become that. And that's my identity. And you don't see Jameis at New Orleans or in Cleveland. Jameis did the work. Whether it's the help of family, the help of great parents and grandparents and prayed for him. But ultimately, Jameis had to do the work to become a man. Jameis is a man. He's not a boy anymore. A lot of boys are in man bodies playing that sport. A lot of them. You can see it in the conversation. You can hear it in the conversation. You can see it in the way that they talk, or see it in the way that they walk around and do these things. They're just boys masquerading as men, playing a sport. Jameis lets you know he's a man of faith playing a child's game. And things are a lot more important than wins and losses. Wins and losses and victory come from the Lord. This is Jameis's words. Who can't love that? Who can call that corny? A leader amongst man. He's beloved in New Orleans, has become beloved in Cleveland. He's beloved in my heart and always be beloved in my heart. Jameis, you can't do no wrong for me, man. You can't. You never have. Whatever they tried to put out, man, I always knew media gonna do what they do. And I'm glad you stayed true to who you are. I'm proud of you, Jameis. I've been proud of you. I don't care what people say. I know you're gonna be true to you. And as long as you stay true to you, and as long as you stay true to you, Jameis, I'm gonna forever love you, bro. Keep up the good work off the field. Keep up the good work in your mind, in your mental, in your spirit. Continue to be a good example for your boys. Continue to love your wife and nurture her. And I can't wait, man. I can't wait. Like I said, the call to action for the end of this video is really a call to create. And like I said, you know, we have times where we need to be held accountable. And I'm sure Jameis took his time and realized some of the things on the field could lead to us becoming a better person off the field. And I think that's what's happened. He was held accountable for those interceptions and for those media blunders or those draft stock, the draft stock declining. He was held responsible for that. But for the most part, he was accountable for everything that he did or didn't do. He kept it moving, and he still stayed true to who he is. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to show me anything. Let's just end it off on a funny video and see if I can present here and put off a funny video. Oh, yeah. There we go. Let's see. There we go. Pre-game. Look at the big smile. Look at the big smile from Jameis.
Weather conditions tonight. We're expecting winds up to 15 miles per hour and a wintry mix. How will that impact your ability to throw the ball?
I am so happy and grateful that the Lord has blessed me to play in some snow, to be in true football weather in Cleveland, Ohio, at Huntington Bank Field today to give him the glory. It's a beautiful day.
Weather conditions tonight. We're expecting winds up to 15 miles per hour and a wintry mix.
Gotta love it, man.
How will that impact your ability to throw the ball?
Absolutely gotta love it.
I am so happy.
Let's see. That's amazing, man. That is amazing. That's all we're gonna get today, man. So, like I said, man, I'm Barneswell, and this discussion of quarterback trials, Jameis Winston versus everybody, has been amazing. We're gonna do the next episode will be Russell Wilson. So yeah, we'll go Russell Wilson next. I appreciate it. Y'all let me know in the comments if my opinion is cool. If y'all don't like my opinion, let me know if some of my facts are incorrect. And if y'all know any of his family or any of his resources or network, let them know that I would really love to expound on this in a more formal way, in a more formal setting, as far as getting some scripts together so that we can cement this story and Jameis' story that he wants to write, cemented in history with book, film, or whatever it may be. So I appreciate everyone. I'm Barneswell, and be well. Thanks.